That was the day when I discovered that Very Odd Parents is a lie and all they do is lie to people. Hey everyone. Today I wanted to make a video on some things I thought as a kid. I saw some YouTubers make this video and I just thought it was really funny because when I was a kid I thought some pretty crazy things and it made me realize that while I was growing up I was not smart at all. If you guys thought any of these things that I'm about to mention, please leave it in the comments below because I would love to know that I am not the only one that is this stupid. With that said, let's get started. So when I was in elementary school, I thought that if you were evil, you had a black hole as a heart. This sounds really crazy if you have never watched The Very Odd Parents. Because in The Very Odd Parents, when Timmy turned into like a microscopic sized human, he flew into Vicky, his babysitter, and he went through her body, and then when he got to the heart, it was a black hole that sucked up everything. I thought that this was a real thing, and I thought that evil people had black holes as a heart that sucked up everything. I do not know why I thought this made any sense. I obviously never learned science in elementary school. I remember being a kid and watching The Very Odd Parents, and then I went to the living room where my dad was watching TV and I was like, Dad, if somebody's evil, do they have a black hole as a heart? And he was like, what? No? And then I was like, I thought you do. How do evil people not have a black hole as a heart? Like, I just don't understand. That was the day when I discovered that Very Odd Parents is a lie and all they do is lie to people. Alright, so the next thing that I thought as a kid was that when it was windy or there was air blowing, it was God blowing air with his mouth because he was angry or mad. I always thought that if it's windy, God is doing this and like blowing wind on the earth and making it windy because he was angry. How does that make any sense? So whenever it was windy, I always thought, oh man, somebody did something bad and now God is mad at them. The next thing I thought as a kid was that my dad could read my mind. I am not joking. I don't know if anybody else thought this about their parents, but like I remember being in the car with my dad and I was like thinking about something and then my dad just like mentioned it and I was like, how did he know that I was thinking about that? And that has happened to me multiple times where I would be thinking about something and then my dad would mention it or say something about it or say a word that kind of goes with what I was thinking. Like I'll be like in the car and I'll be thinking, man, I really want a Happy Meal right now from McDonald's. And then my dad would be like, should we go to McDonald's? And I'd be like, yeah, we should. How did he know? Like I still sometimes think he can read minds. Like maybe he's just not telling people. Maybe he wants to keep it a secret because it's like a gift and he doesn't want it taken away. I don't know. The next thing I thought as a kid was that when people, or women mostly, dyed their hair blonde, I thought it was called beach blonde. So I thought when people were saying like, I want to dye my hair, they like a bleach blonde, I thought they were saying beach blonde. So when I was growing up, the whole time I would say like beach blonde hair or I want like beach blonde hair, which I wasn't corrected about until maybe 8th grade in middle school. So my whole childhood, I kept calling it beach blonde hair instead of bleach blonde. The next thing I thought as a kid was that rice was a type of spaghetti. I thought that rice was made from the same type of thing that spaghetti was, and it was just mini spaghettis. I didn't know that rice was like picked from a plant. I thought that it was like a noodle, but it was like a mini noodle. When I told my Asian friends about this later in high school, they looked at me like I was literally insane. They're like, how could you think it was a noodle? Like, that makes no sense. But me, being the stupid kid that I was, automatically put together like, you boil spaghetti, you boil rice. Rice must be mini noodles. In my defense, guys, it kind of seems like a logical thing, right? Like, I'm not totally insane. Like, people could seriously think that. Somebody else had to have thought that, right? Some other like white girl who wasn't raised in Asian family that talked about rice pickers. Like, they obviously must have thought that, right? The next thing I thought as a kid, which I think a lot of kids thought, so I'm not really that crazy or stupid, but I thought that brown cows made chocolate milk. I grew up thinking that like cows that are white or white and black made white milk, and then cows that are brown made chocolate milk. I think it's because of packaging and how they like label packages for kids. Like if you get regular milk, you always see like a white or black and white cow on it. But if you get chocolate milk, I feel like it's usually a brown cow, or like a brown cow with like white spots or black spots or something. Like they never really have the same type of cow on regular milk and chocolate milk. The next thing I thought as a kid was that little elves, or like miniature tiny like people, lived in those green boxes by intersections, and they like were in those boxes or underground, and they would be controlling the traffic lights. So whenever I got to a traffic light with my parents, I always thought that there was little elves like underground or in those green boxes by the side of roads, and they were controlling the lights. So they would like see a car pulled up and they would change the lights, or they would like direct traffic. And that's what I thought was happening whenever we went to an intersection or were in front of a light. The next thing I thought as a kid was that everybody's plumbing was directly connected to oceans and lakes. I thought that when we go to the restroom or use the shower, that there was just a giant hose going all the way from a lake or ocean, and it was bringing the water straight to our house. And that's the water that I thought was coming out of like our faucets and stuff. So whenever I was little and would like have a bath, I would be scared that sharks or fish would come out of the faucet or like the bathtub. I don't know what the bathtub thing is called. It's like on the side of bathtubs and water comes out of it. Yeah, I have no idea what that thing is called. But I would be scared that like a fish would just pop out of it, or a shark would pop out of it, and then there'd be like fish in my bath. This was actually a fear of mine. Like I literally was scared of this. And also public swimming pools. I was scared that the water that was shooting out from the jets, which is actually heated water to make the pool warmer, well, I thought that was water coming from the ocean or lake, and that fish could like come out of it. So I was literally terrified that sharks would get me when I was swimming in public pools, or that like fish would just show up. And when I mentioned this fear to my mom, she literally looked at me like I was an insane person. Like, she just could not wrap her head around the fact that I was actually that stupid. I thought that snowflakes were created by little fairies. So I thought that when like fairies would be in the sky and the snow would be forming, I thought that there was like little fairies that like molded them and like shaped them and made them fall from the sky, and that's why each snowflake is different and looks like no two snowflakes are the same, which now I actually think that is a lie. How is there not two snowflakes that look like, out of the like trillions and billions and gazillions of snowflakes that fall from the sky? How is there not two that look alike? Okay, seriously, that makes no sense to me. I don't know where I learned that. I don't know who taught that to me, but that cannot be true, because there has to be two snowflakes that have fallen from the sky that look the same. There's just no way that there isn't. The next thing I thought as a kid was that the smarter you are, the bigger your brain or your head is. I also blame Nickelodeon for me forming this theory, because in one episode of Jimmy Neutron, one of the characters, one of his friends, suddenly became extremely smart, and his head just kept growing bigger and bigger, and his brain was like taking over everything. And then I believed that if you are extremely smart, your brain and your head is really big, which is not true, because my dad has a really big head and he is not smart. I think the fact that people also said like people that are stupid have like walnut brains or like acorn brains, I always imagine like people that are stupid just have like little tiny brains that are like the size of walnuts. But if you're really smart, you have like a really big brain and it's making your head really big. When I was a kid, I also thought that whenever it rained, it was because God was crying. So this kind of goes along with me believing that like when God is angry, he blows wind on the earth. But when he was sad, he would be crying, and that would make like rain come out of the sky. Whenever it would rain, I would think like, oh my gosh, somebody really upset God. He's very sad right now. He's crying. And then that would literally be what I was thinking in my head, like somebody did something wrong. Now he's really upset. Do people say that to little kids? Like, is it something that like kids believe, like Santa Claus? Like, our parents, like, do parents use that as a way when their kids ask like, why is it raining? Like, I don't think my parents said like, it's raining because God is sad. Like, I don't think my parents ever said that. So it must be like, I don't know, like something kids just make up in their head, because I cannot be the only person that thought that. Like, I seriously think other kids thought that. It couldn't have just been me. The next thing also kind of goes with like religion and stuff. When I was little, I thought that angels lived like in the clouds, like in the sky, and clouds would be like basically where they slept, where they like stood. Like each cloud was basically like this own angel's like either little home or like bed or chair or something. Like, I just thought angels lived in the clouds, and they literally like stood on the clouds. They like did everything on a cloud, in a cloud. I also blame children's movies for this, because I think all dogs go to heaven. When the dogs went to heaven, they were just like bouncing around on clouds and like living on clouds. So I think that is where I got that idea from. The next thing I thought as a kid was that some babies grew in gardens. I blame Cabbage Patch Dolls for this, because I thought that some babies were formed in vegetable gardens. There'd be a cabbage, and then suddenly a baby would appear in the middle of a cabbage. Or there would be like a flower, and suddenly a baby would be on the like palm or the center of the flower, and it would be born that way. The last thing that I have written down here is that when I was a kid, I believed that airplanes would drop giant balls of waste from the sky to the earth. This is really disgusting, and I'm so sorry, but like, I actually thought that like when people use the bathroom on airplanes, it turned into a giant ball, and airplanes would just like drop it down to the earth. And I think I thought this because of some movie. Like, I think there's a movie where like this happened, and some guy was like calling it a like meteor, and he was like, oh my god, a meteor fell from the sky, and it was actually the waste from an airplane. So I thought that that was real, and I thought that really happened from airplanes, but I don't think that would, because first of all, how would it make a perfectly round solid ball? Second, I'm pretty sure it would be illegal for airplanes to drop anything from the sky. Alright, so that is my list of things I thought as a kid. I think this really taught me that all children are just gullible in general, and they will believe anything they see. So this kind of worries me about when like I see an ad on TV and it's just like really stupid and ridiculous. I think I need to like think about for a second, like some kids probably think this is real. If you thought any weird things as a kid, I would love to know, so leave it in the comments below, and maybe I thought it too as a kid. Who knows? I don't think this list is every weird thing I thought as a kid, but it's just the ones that I could remember. So maybe like some of your weird things you thought as a kid would jog my memory, and I'd be like, oh my god, I thought that too. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you soon. Bye. He was beautiful. I was like, there is no way this guy lives by me, because if he did, I would know him. I think this really taught me that all children's are just all children's.